There is a strange cruelty to the way the mind behaves when the world finally goes quiet. The moment your body is ready to rest, your thoughts rise as if summoned by the silence. Old conversations return with new urgency. Moments long past demanding resolution they never received. Decisions you already made suddenly feel fragile, as if they could still collapse under scrutiny. You replay, rephrase, and reconstruct, convinced that one more pass will unlock relief. Instead of peace, you find yourself trapped in motion without progress. No matter how long you think, the release never comes. The tension settles deeper into your chest, heavy and persistent. Your body feels exhausted, but your mind remains alert, scanning for threats that may not even be real. The most painful part is not the thoughts themselves, but the sense that you cannot stop them. It feels as though your own brain is turned against you. You are left awake, tired, and powerless in the face of your own vigilance. At some point, you may have asked yourself why this happens to you. You wonder why others seem able to let things go while you are still dissecting every word and outcome. Small decisions feel weighted with consequence, while big ones feel paralyzing before they even begin. Even uneventful days leave you mentally drained, as though you have run a marathon in place. You may assume this means something is wrong with you. That assumption quietly deepens the struggle. What rarely gets said is that overthinking is not a failure of discipline. It is not weakness dressed up as intellect. It is not proof that you are too sensitive or incapable of coping. Overthinking is a protective response that simply never learned when to stand down. It is your brain trying to keep you safe with outdated instructions. Once you see this clearly, the entire story begins to change. What you are experiencing is not just excessive thought, but thought without resolution. Your mind is caught in a loop, endlessly searching for certainty in a world that rarely offers it. You are not actually chasing answers, even though it feels that way. You are chasing relief from the tension inside your body. Thinking feels safer than feeling, so the mind keeps working long after it stops helping. This is why being told to calm down never works. It is why positive thinking feels hollow and forced. It is why distraction only helps until you are alone again with yourself. Your mind is not malfunctioning or broken. It is executing the exact strategy it learned under pressure. The problem is not effort, but misdirection. To change this pattern, you have to slow down and look beneath the noise. You have to understand why your brain learned to overthink in the first place. You have to see what it fears would happen if it stopped monitoring everything. You also have to recognize why fighting your thoughts only amplifies them. This is not about forcing silence where fear still lives. It is about ending the internal war by understanding its origin. The goal is not to think less for the sake of thinking less. The goal is to feel safe enough that thinking no longer has to do all the work. Overthinking rarely begins as a problem, but as a solution that once worked. At some point, anticipating outcomes protected you from embarrassment, rejection, conflict, or pain. Your brain learned that preparation reduced risk. And once a strategy reduces pain even once, the brain holds on to it tightly. Picture a younger version of yourself navigating uncertainty without control. Perhaps emotions around you were unstable or unpredictable. Maybe mistakes carried consequences that felt disproportionate or humiliating. Love may have felt conditional, earned through performance rather than presence. In that environment, thinking became armor, not excess. Staying one step ahead felt like survival. The brain does not know when to retire a successful strategy. It does not evaluate whether the threat is still present. It only remembers that vigilance once kept you safe, so it repeats the pattern long after the environment has changed. What once protected you now exhausts you. The behavior persists not because it is useful, but because it is familiar. This is why overthinking feels compulsive rather than curious. It is driven by vigilance, not insight. Your mind is scanning for danger, not understanding. Modern danger does not look like physical harm, but emotional loss, regret, rejection, or being misunderstood. Stopping feels irresponsible because your brain believes vigilance equals care. Letting go feels like inviting disaster. Relaxation feels threatening to a hyper-alert mind. Feels like leaving the door unlocked in the middle of the night. Overthinking convinces you that if you stop monitoring, something bad will happen. Worse, it tells you that it will be your fault for not preventing it. This belief keeps the system locked in place. Fear disguises itself as responsibility. Seeing overthinking as protection rather than sabotage changes everything. Shame begins to loosen its grip once you understand the intent behind the behavior. Shame only fuels the loop by adding another layer of threat. Safety is the only thing that actually quiets the mind. Compassion interrupts patterns that force never could. Once overthinking becomes the default response, it creates a closed loop. Anxiety introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty feels dangerous. Thinking promises control, so the mind accelerates. For a brief moment, the tension dips and clarity seems possible. The brain records this as success and doubles down. That relief is always temporary. Thinking does not resolve emotional threats, it delays them. As soon as uncertainty resurfaces, anxiety spikes again. The mind responds by increasing analysis. This is the anxiety control loop that makes overthinking feel endless and self-perpetuating. Motion is mistaken for progress. When you replay conversations, you are rarely seeking information or trying to change how the interaction made you feel. When decisions feel impossible, it is not because you lack logic. It is because choosing means accepting risk, loss, and finality. Overthinking keeps you suspended where nothing is decided and nothing can hurt you yet. The mind prefers delay to vulnerability. The longer this loop runs, the more sensitive you become to uncertainty. Your tolerance for not knowing shrinks over time. Situations that once felt neutral begin to feel threatening. The brain lowers its threshold for alarm. Overthinking then appears justified, even necessary. The cruel irony is that overthinking presents itself as caution while quietly becoming a trap. The mind becomes so focused on avoiding discomfort that it forgets how to tolerate it. Emotional resilience weakens through disuse. The loop tightens as avoidance grows. What began as protection turns into confinement. At the core of overthinking is emotional avoidance that is subtle and unintentional. Staying in your head keeps you from dropping into your body, where feelings live. Feelings move on their own timeline and resist control. Thoughts feel manageable, adjustable, and safer by comparison. So the mind steps in to analyze instead of feel. It believes it is helping. After endings, this pattern becomes especially clear. Instead of grieving, the mind dissects every detail, replays what you should have said or done differently. It imagines alternate outcomes that might have spared you pain. This feels productive, but it postpones the emotion that needs space. Grief waits patiently for attention. Fear follows the same pattern. Fear is physical, immediate, and vulnerable. Overthinking transforms it into hypothetical futures. Sensation becomes speculation. Speculation feels safer than presence. The body is left unheard, while the mind stays busy. Many people who overthink are emotionally perceptive, but emotionally cautious. They learned early that certain feelings were unsafe to express, so they became skilled at translating emotion into analysis. This adaptation once protected them from harm. Over time, it created distance from themselves. The cost of this strategy is disconnection. Disconnection from the body and the present moment. Disconnection from closure and resolution. Emotions do not dissolve when ignored. They remain active beneath the surface. The mind circles because the real task has not been completed. Most overthinking patterns were formed through adaptation, not choice. Childhood teaches the nervous system what to watch for. If moods were unpredictable or criticism was sudden, alertness became necessary. You learn to read tone, silence, and expression for cues. Those skills followed you into adulthood. As an adult, this vigilance can look like constant self-monitoring. You may analyze how others perceive you or assume silence means rejection. You may feel responsible for managing other people's emotions. This is not drama. It is pattern recognition shaped by experience. Your nervous system is trying to prevent familiar pain. Because these patterns formed early, they feel like personality traits. In reality, they are learned responses. Adult life rarely offers clear emotional feedback. People are distracted, inconsistent, and complex. The vigilant mind works overtime, trying to decode what cannot be decoded. Exhaustion becomes the norm. Overthinking is not just psychological, it is biological. The brain's threat system activates and floods the body with stress signals. The reasoning system then works overtime trying to calm it down. Analysis attempts to silence an alarm that does not speak logic. Sensation remains unaddressed. This is why understanding something intellectually does not bring relief. The body has not received the message. Cortisol stays elevated, and the nervous system never fully settles. System that does not feel safe will keep scanning. Calm environments still feel tense. Most advice fails because it targets thought content instead of nervous system state. Positive thinking feels invalidating to a brain that feels unheard. Suppression increases attention and intensity. What actually helps is acknowledgement without argument. Feeling understood softens threat. Disarming overthinking is about regulation, not control. Begins with calming the body before challenging the mind. Breathing, grounding, and safety signals come first. Naming the underlying feeling creates space. Boundaries around thinking allow uncertainty to exist without urgency. Over time, the brain learns that silence is not danger. Feeling becomes tolerable rather than overwhelming. Peace emerges when vigilance is no longer required. Overthinking fades as safety grows. It was never the enemy, only a messenger asking for reassurance.